What's up, good people? Obviously, I am not Reverend Melissa, despite that intro, and I am not at home. If you've seen me before, you know this is not my usual backdrop. I'm having Wi-Fi issues, so I'm in the corner of a coffee shop trying to make it do what it do. So, welcome to Living Life in Joy. Today is Sunday, the 14th of November. I'm your guest host today. I'm Sekou Wrights. Those of you that know I have my own show, the Be Your Own Hero Show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And today, obviously, I'm guest hosting Living Life in Joy. So I'm just going to go ahead and run the next intro, and we're going to go set ready with a drum roll. So I usually like to save the drum rolls for later, but I want to start it off with a bang. So today I'm talking to Brandon Marshall. Those of you who have been following my show and Rev Melissa's show know that I've been working with the Unhoused for about a year now. This was a COVID pivot for me. I started working with the Unhoused middle last year. I launched Hero Hoodies, which I'm wearing right now, in October of last year. And it has grown and grown and grown as it become what we're calling the Hero Ministry movement because it's so big now. A big part of that movement recently has been a charity run. We started off as a birthday run for me, and it has become something even bigger. So I've been accepting donations and donating those donations to 8 different nonprofits that I'm calling the Elevating 8. I made that up, but I like it. The Elevating 8 nonprofits. These are 8 different nonprofits in 4 different cities, all of which interface with the unhoused community in different ways. So that's been very fulfilling for me. I'm nearing the end now. I'm in the last 20 or some odd days. Today was day 166. I boosted my mile count by running a 10K today. So that's 6.2 miles. So feeling good. So I'm going to introduce Brandon, and he's going to talk about the 8th nonprofit. This is the 8th nonprofit to join the quote unquote Elevating 8. This is Nashville Launchpad. I'll let him tell us about what that is and what they do. I'm very excited to have 8 nonprofits now because I started off with just 1. So I'm very excited at the growth and development of this project. So just really briefly, he's a former TV reporter. I got to put that in because that's real sexy. He lives in Nashville, obviously. He's on the board of the Nashville Launchpad. And right now he serves the Nashville Mayor's Office as the digital director and the LGBTQ liaison. So we're going to ask him about that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Brandon Marshall. Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you for having me. You can hear me?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I
All right.
Your writing's good, all that. So why don't we just start off from the beginning? Tell us about the Nashville Launchpad and tell us about working for the mayor and what you actually do. What does digital director and LGBTQ liaison mean?
I know it's a lot of letters there.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'll start off with Nashville Launchpad. I'm a board member with the nonprofit, and the nonprofit has been in existence in Nashville since 2014. Basically, we are an LGBTQ affirming emergency shelter for young adults experiencing homelessness here in the city. And we normally open up our doors to those youth between 18 to 24 between November 1st and the end of March. So typically late fall, entire winter season, early spring. And since 2014, we have served more than 10,000 guests.
Wow.
We usually operate in churches in their community spaces who will welcome us. Last year, we had to change it up a little bit because of the pandemic, which we're still in, and we had to. We were fortunate enough to be able to house our guests in motel rooms, so it was a little bit more safe environment. And actually, this year, as we approach our next season, we are sheltering our guests in affordable apartment spaces. So we're able to provide. We don't have our own shelter or our own center, but thankfully, because of who we are and all the things that we do in the community, people are able to work with us in a way. So that's a little bit about Nashville Launchpad in a whole is. But for me, I primarily work as a board member. I work with their social media. So I'll get our messages out to our followers on Facebook and on Instagram. And I've only been a board member for about a year, but I gravitated towards that just because youth, the homeless, are two things that are near and dear to my heart. And I wanted to kind of give back into the community this way. And then on the flip side, I'm also, like you mentioned, part of Mayor John Cooper's office here. And for that, my role is twofold. One, I run his social media and I'm part of the communications team as the digital director. And the other part is I am also the LGBTQ liaison for the city. And I typically, what that role involves is looking at different ordinances or policies, if you will, and just making sure some of the policies within the metro government are inclusive for everyone.
Okay. So you mentioned that you might be moving folks into apartments. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
For Nashville Launchpad. So how is that going to work logistically?
So for this upcoming season, we have about 8 units, and I believe they are spaced out with about 2 bedrooms. I haven't seen the rooms yet, but I know our executive director and other board members are a little bit more involved deeply. But basically, we'll have volunteers that will work around the clock. We operate basically 24/7. If any of our guests that will be staying with us throughout the winter season need any help with clothing or just a shelter, we'll have volunteers that will be able to provide those things for them. Those one of our board members was fortunate enough to be able to secure these apartment complexes for us at a low rate. So I'm thankful for her guidance throughout the community, because without her knowledge, we may not have been able to do it, and probably would have been able to shelter our guests with still within the community space or the church community space situation. We normally take in about 20 to 25 guests per on average, I would say. And we normally we do have a waiting list. About 40% of our guests identify as LGBTQ. And, here in Nashville, we don't have too many shelters specifically for that 18 to 24 age group. And so there is a need, and there is always a running wait list. Sometimes our main priority, although we are sheltering them, we want to transition them into a more solidified or a more concrete space eventually. So while they're with us, we will help them try to get on their feet. We'll help them try to land a job if they don't have one. Sometimes we'll help them get new identification cards. We'll provide food, meals every day. And then also other nonprofits, because of the work we do, other nonprofits will provide a meal each day. So one nonprofit might provide the Monday dinner, another one the Tuesday dinner. So thankfully, we're able to not just provide all the meals for our guests just alone by ourselves. So I know I threw a lot out there, but we're underway. November 1st came and went, so we are providing the shelters for our guests this season, and so far it's been really good.
That sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to connect you with some of the other, as I'm calling them, Elevating 8, the other members of the Elevating 8, because there's one of those nonprofits that's also based in Nashville, and it's a pandemic nonprofit, meaning that she started it just during the pandemic. But what she does is she cooks meals every day and then delivers them to the unhoused wherever she can find them. So she could bring that food right over to you, and you could have even more home cooked meals to deliver.
We would love it
to your folks. That'd be great. And it's amazing that one of your board members was able to secure apartments, and so you're able to pass those on to the unhoused free of charge for the unhoused.
Yeah, well, it's all free of charge. We operate via donations, really, throughout the entire year. We have three large fundraising events throughout the entire year, and then we also apply for grants. I mean, we can't just live or operate on just donations, financial or just monetary donations throughout the year. We also apply for grants, and thankfully, those grants have been able to help us provide the shelter for our guests.
That's great. And so since you mentioned donations, I'm putting the website in the chat right now on screen so the people can donate. Feel free to donate directly to NashvilleLaunchpad.com, especially because, as I mentioned in the intro, Nashville Launchpad is the most recent of the 8 nonprofits to join. So they're a little behind in terms of the donations. Like I've already done one disbursement of donations to the initial 7. So if you guys want to help Nashville Launchpad catch up, please make a direct donation to them. There's the website, help them catch up. All right, so all that said, tell me about how the Hero Charity Run showed up on your radar and why you decided to reach out and get involved.
Yeah, sure. I will just say I woke up one morning, as I normally do, just scrolling through Instagram. I picked up my phone, and somehow I think you and I've already followed you before.
Oh, cool.
And I noticed that one of your stories popped up on my Instagram feed. So I started to look into it a little bit. And I realized that it was just basically you running. And I'm like, well, what is this guy doing? And so I learned a little bit more about your story. And I thought what you're doing is amazing. Kudos to you for just doing that for more than a year. So then I reached out to you just to see, because with my involvement with Launchpad, I knew that when our upcoming season was happening, and I just wanted to maybe see if we can collaborate in a way. So I messaged you, you accepted. I thought that was easy. And it kind of just started from there. But even after we had initial conversations, I was really trying to tell other folks that, hey, this guy's doing amazing work, not only just for the organizations that do amazing work themselves, but you're trying to give other folks a platform and still just trying to kind of be a tunnel in a way. So I just gravitated towards that. And here we are. We're now talking one-on-one and trying to just amplify your message with the things that Launchpad does.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And just to reiterate this, shout out to Reverend Melissa for allowing me to guest host and talk to the Elevating 8. I'm going to keep using that term. I like it. It's got a good ring to it. And she has also interviewed some of the other nonprofits. And so what I'm hoping is that there will be a body of video work that includes all 8 of the nonprofits that I'm donating to. And maybe that'll turn itself into some other fundraising project at the end of this, so that we can keep on elevating what you guys do and what the other 7 nonprofits do, so you can get more exposure and more funds to do this work, because the work needs to be done.
And the work is definitely out there. I would say just for Nashville alone, just like I mentioned before, we have provided homes and shelters, or shelters, I should say, beds for more than 10,000 guests since 2014. And each season, 40% of our guests identify as LGBTQ. So not only are they dealing with just the homelessness issues, but sometimes just identifying, trying to find themselves within the community that they live. So yeah, work is needed no matter the situation.
Right. And you mentioned that you're serving the age group around 18 to 24. Do they have different needs in terms of working with the unhoused?
Primarily, a lot of our teens and young adults, their needs are more so trying to just find jobs. Some may have transportation issues, and the bus passes is some other ways that we use our donations. We'll get them bus passes, and Lyft was very, very helpful throughout the pandemic season, because sometimes they needed to find a way to get to our shelter. So a lot of the needs that that age group really needs, or the needs that they have, are transportation, and then if they have a job, trying to get to and fro their job in the shelter once they clock out. And then also being part of the LGBTQ community, sometimes they are looking to, they're trying to look for how they would want to self-identify. So we have social workers that are part of our nonprofit that will work with them and sometimes change their names if need be, work with them on getting their to identify them appropriately, how they want to be identified. So there's a lot of things other than just having a place to sleep at night throughout the day. So those
Right.
are some of the issues that we see with that age group.
Right. So kudos to you for providing what 10,000 beds you said.
Yeah,
That's
since
amazing.
2014. Yeah.
2014.
And even with we typically start November 1st and go all the way to March 31st. But because of the pandemic last year, we extended our shelter season, if you will, and we didn't really stop until the end of April. So those donations that we rely on those donations and grants. But that's one reason why I joined the nonprofit, because I knew that they were doing really great work.
Right. And you said that, the executive director usually does interviews. So tell us a little bit about how and why the executive director created this nonprofit.
Well, he actually, Ty Brown is his name. He did not start Launchpad, but he when I joined, he was the executive director at the time. But I think just knowing Ty and his personality, he comes from a place with an open heart, and he knows the community here in Nashville, and he knows the needs that need to be fixed or need to be filled. So he is a person that I know is a staunch advocate for affordable housing, providing shelters for our homelessness, and a lot of boots on the ground type of work. So that's a little bit about who he is. But yeah, Ty's great. He started outside of I know he doesn't, he has another job outside of that, but solely just for the nonprofit. That's how I know him.
Great. And you mentioned a few different issues that come together. And I mentioned I'm new to this space. I've only been working in this space for about a year, but I've been fascinated and slightly traumatized by the fact that so many social ills and ailments come together at the intersection of being unhoused. Like, it's fascinating to me that seems to be the terminating point of all these other issues. And so I applaud you and what you're doing to address it on multiple levels, different layers. The more I get involved, the more I see how many different layers of unhousedness there is. It's not just a simple definition.
Yeah, and I'm learning myself. I'm not going to say that I know everything. I'm still each day, especially when our winter season rolls around, I'm finding I'm learning new things about our guests. Just the reasons why some of them were thrown out of their homes. Just the reasons why they decided to leave school, but they're trying to find themselves still. So each person, we call them our guests because that's just who they are. They're more than just someone who is looking for a place to stay. So each one has a story, and so we're just trying to provide some type of normalcy for them in a world that's just crazy. It's like a snow globe.
Sure. So you mentioned Lyft, and this is a bit of a Hail Mary, but is there a way that we, the community, can help people get Lyfts? People in your community, does Lyft have gift cards, or is there some way that we can help?
Lyft is definitely well, I shouldn't say Lyft itself. Using Lyft as the rideshare took a big chunk of our budget or our funds, especially last season. We don't have a partnership with Lyft. We solely just have an account. And whenever a guest of ours needs to come to our shelter or go to work, we'll just try and hook them up with Lyft or use our app to get them those means. And that's basically all it is. We are in the works of trying to get a partnership with Lyft, but it hasn't happened. But to your point, I don't know if they necessarily take gift cards, but that's where the monetary donations come in. And sometimes we like to tell people, and we like to offer them they can provide one-time donations, or they can do a reoccurring donation, $5 a month. So that adds up, and we are very thankful and grateful for all those folks who are always trying to just do more than just a one-time payment. But we take those monetary donations, use them for a lot of things, including the rideshare way.
All right, so I'm just going to alley-oop on that. folks, the link is right there on the screen, NashvilleLaunchpad.com. Make a donation there. Also, just a reminder, 100% of the proceeds that I'm raising during my charity run will be divided evenly between the 8 nonprofits. So they'll get some of that money soon. So contribute both ways, and feel free to reach out to Brandon and Nashville Launchpad specifically and help them out. Okay, so that's it. Let's get on over to these questions that Rev Melissa gave me finally. So tell me about your Won't He Do It story. I think we all have one, but what is the thing that stands out for you as your Won't He Do It story?
Okay. For me, so I've been living in Nashville for about 5 years. I first moved here because prior to being in the mayor's office, I was a TV news reporter. But after 5 years, I've always been living in apartments, and I just needed to find a house for myself. I was tired of throwing away what I thought I was just throwing away money to the apartment complexes. And then, the housing market nowadays is just very ruthless. You have to sometimes, it's a seller's market, basically, is what it is. So anyway, I say all of that because I am thankfully speaking with you in my house. I was able to find a house after maybe, I think this was the second home that I tried to put a bid in for. The first house I didn't get. And I left my apartment complex. I had to break my lease, first of all. And with that being said, a big chunk of money had to go towards that. But thankfully, they gave me a discount. And so while I was transitioning from my apartment complex to the home that I'm in now, I still had a lot of friends that lived in the apartment complex. And they told me, one person reached out to me one day and said, I don't know how you knew it, but we just got a letter from the apartment complex that they are ending everyone's lease come the first of the year. Everyone's got to go because they're turning that apartment complex into like a homestays type situation. So she was like, I don't know how you knew it. She said, but what really struck me was she said, someone must have been looking out for you because I'm beside myself. I have to find, she has less than 2 months to basically move all of her stuff and find either another apartment or another home. So I took that as my won't he do it moment because I was stressed just trying to find a house. I eventually found a house, but I know my situation could have been a whole lot different had I stayed in my apartment complex to this day.
Yeah, the universe was looking out for you. You didn't even know. You didn't even
Did not know. And I definitely was very thankful for that.
Yeah, that's great. Great story. So, what does joy look like to you?
Joy for me is just seeing a smile on someone's face. For me, it doesn't take much for me to be happy, I guess, if you will. Joy is just basically me. Also, I look at it as a way for me to help others. I get gratification out of that. So I'm a pretty laid back, simple person. I mean, if someone else is maybe in a rut or down on themselves, maybe just for a day or two, I love to tell jokes or just try to have a conversation with them, make them smile. And that is what brings joy to me in a nutshell.
That's great. And that's probably very useful in the community which you serve through Nashville Launchpad, because sometimes they just need to be seen. They just need to be seen and spoken to. So that's great that you have
Definitely.
that personality. So Reverend Melissa says that she is living life in joy. What are you living life in?
Just I think one day at a time. I did not know where I would be 2 years after I had been in the news business for about 9 years, and I was burnt out. I was always covering stories, with shootings or just families losing loved ones. And after a while, that took a toll on me. And I just needed to push pause. I had to leave the industry. And even my time in the news business was great. I met a lot of folks, and I'm thankful that I'm still in Nashville to continue meeting some people even after I've left. But I've taken all of that and turned it into joy because I'm able to put Nashville Launchpad's name out there, or I'm able to still volunteer with some of the folks who I used to do news stories with, because all of these other people that I did stories with, they're CEOs, they have their own nonprofits, and I'm still utilizing those connections that I made way back when, and I find joy out of that. I mean, it's not every day that I'll be out in the streets in the community as much as I used to, because that was my daily grind. But nowadays, I can still help folks out here in Nashville, just in a little different way. So, and some people still think I'm on the news. It's after 2 years, it's not happening. But I'm away, but I still find time to connect with the people that welcomes me into their homes. Day in and day out. So stuff like that brings me joy. And I can still talk about it. I've got plenty of stories to talk about, or just have conversations with folks, and just kind of catch up with them every now and then if I see them out in the community.
Right. It's not a bad thing that people think you're still on TV. That's pretty cool.
I guess not. No, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's good for you for taking care of yourself, for you recognizing the toll that those kinds of stories were taking on your spirit. Because a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, they may not. It takes some time. They may find that joy, or they may push that pause button when it's too late. So I had to just do it for myself.
Amen. Okay, so what is your joy song and why? What's the song that gets you inspired and going?
Okay, well, I don't really have a joy song in particular. I would just say anything. CeCe Winans is my favorite gospel artist. Any song from her is probably 100% brings me joy. If any of my friends know me, they know I love CeCe Winans. I used to listen. I just grew up listening to her music. My mom would play her music as a kid when I was a child, and a lot of her music got me through a lot of, I guess, low points in my life when I was in college. Maybe about, I guess, 12 years ago now. But yeah, anything CeCe Winans, any of her songs, I can her CDs brings me joy 100%.
And I think you sing a little gospel too, right? So do you sing?
Just a little bit, but not really. I'm that person that'll blend in with everybody else.
Into the choir. In the choir. That's what's up. Know thyself. Know thyself.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us how we can reach you, what the best way to support.
Sure. Well, from a Nashville Launchpad position, we have a Facebook page and a Instagram page, and our Facebook page is simply just Nashville Launchpad, and our Instagram page is Nashville Launchpad itself, all one word, lowercase, and then the link as you provided down there. You can check us out that way. I think those three outlets is basically how we interact with our community. A lot of people like to ask if we take donations, specifically clothes, and we don't, unfortunately, because we don't have a space to house a lot of those clothes. So that's why we do accept the monetary donations, but also there are other, if they do have clothes, perhaps we know how to offer clothes to other nonprofits that do accept clothes. I would definitely stay close, pay attention to our Facebook and our Instagram pages if you have those social media outlets, because we do have some upcoming announcements happening, and we're working on a clothing drive. I know I just mentioned we don't have clothes, but we're partnering with another nonprofit who will might take in the clothes for us. So we're trying to figure out the logistics that way. Those are some few things that people can pay attention to and connect with us that way.
Okay. And both the Instagram and the Facebook are available through this link on the website that we've got right here, NashvilleLaunchpad.com.
I believe so.
All right. So I'm just trying to give people one thing to do so they can make sure they get there. And they can also donate through this website too. Right?
They can also donate through that website. And even I believe you can get to Nashville Launchpad through our social media through that website. But it's a one-stop shop, if you will. And if they're unable to get to our Facebook or Instagram that way, our executive director, Ty Brown, he readily gets all of the messages via our website. So I think we've covered our bases, but yeah.
Good. All right, so we're out of time, but I just want to say one thing. Since you're trying to figure out how to accept clothes or how to work with clothes, just a reminder that the way Hero Hoodies works is I sell one to the general public, and then I donate a brand new hoodie or sweatshirt or shirt or socks or mask to the unhoused or to nonprofits that serve the unhoused. So if you think that might be a good fit, we can talk about that later and get you some free stuff to give to your folks.
I would love that. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. All right,
I
great.
appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I appreciate you reaching out and deciding to be a part of this process. I greatly appreciate that. And thanks for being here on the show. And folks, you'll see me again tomorrow, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, the Be Your Own Hero show. And you'll see Rev Melissa again, Monday through Friday, 10:30 for Sit with Rev Melissa. So anything else you want to say, Brandon, before we sign off?
I just appreciate this opportunity again. You're doing great work, and I wish you well for the last 52 days or something that you have left.
Yeah.
I know you're going to cross the finish line, and I don't know what you have planned after that, but I am cheering you on.
God, I appreciate it. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Later.